folks, welcome. If you are one of the 120 people that picked up the Vietnam Veteran 250 Anniversary Limited Series Goat Gun, thank you, first of all, because that means a lot to me that you ended up with such a limited series. This video is to show you a little bit about the work that went into creating this series for you. I hope you enjoy. Okay, so we're going to paint. This is media blasted, so all the paint's been blasted off with a stone media, and this allows it to have a really good texture for adhesion. And in the gun, I've got OD green. So to start with, basically just get all my edges. Put one coat down, we're going to let that flash, and then I'll put the top coat on after that. All right, here is the pattern that we lay out, and then we run it over to the cutter, and that process looks just like this. Once it's ready, I'm just going to go ahead and cut it. It's a lot of stuff to pull up, so it does it, and then run it over. And then the cutter will do its thing. All right, so I'm just going to show you a little bit about what the stencil process looks like. In this case, I have some pre-cut pieces to help with the bases and to cut dots. So what you're going to be looking at here is what it takes to do one set of 5, and it's because I do 5 at a time. So these are the base tops, and then I have a jagged cut, pre-cut piece that helps me wrap the bases. Then I've got a section in here for the dots. So these are our dots right here. So you'll see the dots later. And then this is all the stencils for the actual one actual piece. So each one gets base weeded like that, and then we have our setup this way. So we're going to go in and weed these, and I'll show you a little bit about what it takes. And I'm not going to go through and weed all of these, obviously, but just kind of want you to see what the weeding process looks like. Now I usually use paper here, but I want this to look a little nicer. So we're going to go back and we're going to pull the primary pieces out. So this is our silhouette here, but in this silhouette are all the little pieces that have to be removed. So we're going to go in and we pull. So for example, when you see color between the blades of grass, or when you see color between their legs from where they're walking, I have to pull and weed for each one of those, and that allows to get a silhouette that isn't just a plain block silhouette and gives a little bit more life. A lot more work, but it looks better in the end. So this, there you go, that's pretty close. So this is the silhouette after I take the legs and everything out. It makes it easier to see. And then we have the same thing for the praying soldier. We have to take his pieces out for each one. And then we get our praying soldier silhouette like that. So we do that for each one. Now, something as simple as the 250, essentially, the 250 has to be weeded. And because it is a multi-part, I will explain. I have to pull out all 3 numbers, and we have to put the center of the 0 back, like this. So then you get your 250, which is exclusive to ones you guys are buying for this set. Then of course we've got the chopper. We got a little chopper there. So the idea here is that I have to start with the OD green base, and that OD green base, then I lay my stencils down, and I'm gonna do the choppers and the Vietnam portion to show you the steps in the process to get that finished look. We're just gonna do this one piece, which is gonna be the choppers and the small Vietnam portion. So just gonna break down a little bit about how this process goes and what we do for every single one to get the look that we want. Now, this is really kind of to show you what this process looks like, but if you are learning to do your own designs and stuff, I hope maybe this will help a little bit with understanding how we do the designs, how we think in layers and so on. So here we go. So first things first, I have my little piece of transfer paper pre-cut, and I use a pretty low tack transfer tape, and it is still pretty sticky. And also, as you can see, really hard to get off because it's so thin. So it's a really, really thin paper. So first things first, I'm just gonna rock this on here. I'll pull my choppers, they come up easy. And I already have a pre-idea of where I want them aligned based on where the rest of the stencils go. So the laying part, once you get your initial positioning down, that part's easy. So there we go. Doesn't look like much because when you put stencils down, they sort of look funny sometimes. So you just have to really be thinking ahead in the layer. So in this case, again, know exactly where I want this to go. We're gonna drop it in. I use the shape of what I'm working on to kind of determine placement. So I know that this M is gonna go in the center of that little dot every single time, so I know that it's gonna be in the same place all the time. So that's the basic stencils. Now, if that's all I was doing in the situation, like if I was just gonna be spraying this one solid color, that would be easy. But we're not doing that because we have the dark base. And so in that case, that's what these pre-cut pieces are for. And so they're designed to line up with the rest of the look that we have. Just gonna pull and wrap this. This is why where the choppers are positioned is important, because the choppers are going to disappear into the ground there as if they are flying into something, which is the goal. And then I typically have a bunch of these cut. I keep a ton of them because I use them in several different areas, including the base. And then I'm gonna go ahead and get these parts wrapped. Cool. So now I've got my base all the way around, and that's gonna allow me to start doing the white coat and then yellow coat and then so on. So several coats to go. Now one more piece, but we're not done. So again, because I'm not just painting this whole thing, I have to also mask off the area that is exposed. And so in this case, we're running some masking tape across the bottom. And we just want to make sure everything is covered. One little gap right there. I'm gonna run that. And now we're ready to paint. So that's what we have to do for each one. And I already have these pre-made pieces here. And so we're ready to throw paint. So now we'll show you what that step looks like. Okay, so one of the steps that we have to do in this process is, because this is so dark and we're doing a yellow base, we want to make sure that we throw some white down first. So every piece that we do before we can do any yellow and orange needs to get a white base. And this will basically allow the yellow to be more yellow and less like green. So just a small thing I figured I would show you guys. So I do this because I want these dots to be easy to remove, and I need a lot of them. So part of how I get the sun circle on here is I drop my little dot right here, and then I'm going to spray the orange in the background and all that. So when I do that, this takes a little bit of the adhesive off, so when I go to peel this off later, it's easier to remove. Because like on here, for example, the helicopters, those are easy to mess up. So I want the dots a little bit easier to come off, so I become dot man for a little while I work on placing all my dots. This step is probably the most time-consuming piece. So I'm actually using just cream. It looks gross, I know, but that's because I've been using it for a lot of models. I actually like the cream to be a little thinner than this, but it's at the end, so I'm just going to show you guys what we're working on. So I've added the white base and then yellow, and then we put our 2 sun dots on there. And then literally what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using this thick cream, and I'm going to be running the streaks just randomly. Got to make sure it's thick enough to keep the paint from sticking in good places, and that's pretty much it. So now we've just got the cream on there. It looks really gross, but now we're going to hit it with orange and then splotches of red. Once we spray the orange and the red, then we're going to go back and we're going to remove the yellow dots. Then we're going to take a little bit more cream and we're going to rub it into the sun space, and then we're going to hit it again with a little bit of orange just as an overspray, because all we're trying to do is kind of dumb down that bright yellow sun a little bit so that it has more of a mood. And then we'll let it dry, and then we'll go back and we'll remove everything, mineral spirits, and then wash it, and then it's ready for assembly. Okay, same process. We're just going to throw orange on here. Now, I'm not trying to get a super perfect heavy coat, but I do want a full coat. But it doesn't matter if there's a little light spot here or there, because we want it to have that distressed look. Also, we're going to hit it with little blasts of red as well, and that's going to fill in. So once this is done, you guys have already seen the end result, but you'll see how this works. So we're going to hit a little red. And we're literally just a little accent. That is all. Just a tiny little bit of red in there, so that when we go and rub the color off, there'll be little highlights of red in there, but not much. Now we're just going to remove these dots. Now this is why I put them on my shirt, to make them a little easier to remove. And then we have that bright yellow sun in there, and we want to dumb that down just a little bit. So we're going to take our brush and we're going to take the cream that's already on here, and we're basically just going to run it through that sun space. And that's just going to break it up, and it's going to break up here as well. So we end up with this. Looks terrible. Here we go. So we just hit a little bit of orange. And that's just going to soften it up. So as of right now, this is what we have. So I'm going to clean up my brush, put everything away. By the time I'm done, I'll be able to start cleaning this up a little bit. So now it is out of the oven. I just put it in at a low temp, mostly just to soften the stencils, to make it a little easier to remove them. So it's going to take a minute. We'll remove all these. Alright, so just regular mineral spirits, the odorless one. It says odorless, but that's I don't even know why it says that, because it definitely has an odor. But this is good for adhesive, because you're going to get some adhesive when you're using large pieces. You're always going to have some adhesive. So that works out to help pull the adhesive off, and it also helps to clean. Now here is where I'm going to go in. I'm going to put a little nail pressure on there where I want to pull some of the excess orange off, and it's going to get me the streaks that I'm after. And just like that, we have the look. We have the look we're after. So you see how what we're going for here is keeping the sun from being overly bright yellow and have it kind of blend into the whole feel. And that's that. A large part of what I have to do in this project, because I use the cream on these, is to wash them. So we get the cream that's all buried in the paint, and then I go back and wash and scrub with the scrub pad, and it pulls some of that extra cream out that gives me that look I'm going for. So just one more step in the process, which you know, is not something I have to do in a normal project, so it just adds a lot more time, but there we go.